Every flagship phone has that one feature that seemingly doesn't live up. The camera's great, but the battery is disappointing. The performance is there, but the software is a mess. The display is stunning, but it falls apart in sunlight. I've been testing phones long enough that I go in looking for that issue because there's always something and I want to be sure to let you know about it. With the OPPO Find X9 Ultra, it's really hard to find it, and that's not something I say lightly. This is also the first time OPPO has ever launched an Ultra model globally, so if you've been watching these phones from the sidelines because they were China only, that changes right now. Let's start with how this thing is actually built. The design makes a statement before you even turn it on. There's two colors available for the X9 Ultra. There's the Tundra Umber, which is dark, professional, and looks like it belongs next to a Hasselblad X2D on a camera shelf. And then there's this Canyon Orange, which is bold, loud, and the one I've been carrying. 2026 has been the year of orange tech, and big thank you to Apple for making that happen. I truly appreciate it. Now, both colors have a premium fingerprint resistant finish that feels intentional, and that darker color also has this faux leather backing that I think looks really nice. The camera module on these is massive, but it's not awkward. It actually doubles as a natural grip ridge for your index finger. This thing feels more like a camera that happens to make calls and run apps than the other way around. When it comes to the display, this is a 6.82-inch AMOLED pushing 3,600 nits of peak brightness with 144 Hz and 10-bit Dolby Vision. Colors are accurate enough that I trust it for reviewing footage on the go, which isn't something I say about a lot of phone screens. It's that good outdoors and that calibrated indoors. But one honest gripe here. The Gorilla Glass has a dual coating and OPPO markets it like it's super tough. In practice, I never use a case, and carrying this around without a case or screen protector for a couple of weeks with normal daily use, in my experience, had the screen pick up a bunch of micro scratches faster than you'd expect at this price. Not deep gouges, but enough to catch the light in ways that'll just bug you. And again, that's just a use case from me, day one, compared to something like Ceramic Shield 2 on the iPhone 17 Pro, which I've been using for 8 months now, and there aren't any scratches on this at all, and I use it daily. That said, this display is a beautiful window into the OS, and luckily, the horsepower actually matches the visuals. Performance is handled by the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5, which means apps open before you finish the tap, and multitasking with a bunch of things running doesn't cause a single hiccup. ColorOS 16 on Android 16 is genuinely fluid and very customizable, but it ships with bloatware that you didn't ask for, and it makes some un-Android-like choices, like the notification shade doesn't support standard Android gestures, and there's no power button double tap to jump straight into the camera. These are quirks you can live with, but quirks that'll annoy anyone coming from a Pixel or Samsung device. The battery is where Chinese flagships are just lapping the rest of the industry. The 7,050 milliamp hour silicon carbon cell gets you well past a full day without even thinking about it. Plug in a 100-watt charger and you are back to full in around 45 minutes. There's also 50-watt wireless charging here too. Samsung and Apple and Google are still not doing silicon carbon at this scale, and you feel the difference every single day. And the best part is that the battery actually has the endurance to let you spend all day using the real star of the show. So let's talk about these cameras. The whole phone is built around this camera module. 5 sensors on the back. So you've got two 200 megapixel cameras. That's the main and the 3x telephoto. There's also a 50 megapixel ultra wide, a 50 megapixel 10x periscope, and a dedicated color sensor whose only job is to nail white balance across every lens. So that last one sounds like a weird spec sheet footnote, but shoot a mixed light scene and you'll notice. The tones stay consistent as you switch focal lengths in ways most phones can't manage. The main sensor is nearly 1-inch f1.5 aperture, and Hasselblad tuning keeps it honest. Colors come out natural rather than punchy, sharpness in good light is outstanding, and the processing actually restrains itself. You're not getting the overcooked everything at max contrast look you see from some competitors. What you get looks like what was actually in front of you. The 3x telephoto is where things get genuinely surprising. The sensor behind that lens is larger than the main camera on the Galaxy S26 Ultra. So think about that for a second. Not bigger than Samsung's telephoto, bigger than their main camera. And you see it in the results. Compression is beautiful, and portraits at this focal length have a real depth without any software tricks. And mid-range shots of people, or food, or architecture all come through with a quality that makes you reach for that lens constantly. It's arguably the strongest anchor in this whole system. The 10x periscope is a different kind of impressive. OPPO built a quintuple prism reflection mechanism to get true 10x optical in a phone body that is this thin. 5 separate reflections to compress the light path without sacrificing the focal range. With optical image stabilization on board, static scenes and landscapes at this distance look genuinely incredible. Where it gets tricky is tracking anything that's moving fast. Lock onto a subject before it moves and you're fine. Try to catch something mid-motion and the hit rate drops. So for me, at sports events, for example, I was finding the camera to be lacking during action. Not a deal breaker, but worth knowing if your kids never sit still. And if the built-in 10x still isn't enough reach for you, OPPO has this ridiculous Hasselblad Earth Explorer kit for an additional fee. It snaps a camera grip case onto the phone and mounts a 300mm lens directly over the 3x telephoto, turning it into a 13x optical zoom. And the jump from built-in 10x to this 13x is not marginal, it's massive. The detail on distant subjects is genuinely in a different class, more like what you'd expect from a dedicated mirrorless camera setup than a phone. It's clunky to carry everything and you won't pull it out at dinner, but for travel photography, wildlife, or any situation where true reach matters, it's a seriously compelling add-on for those who want to get the most out of their phone. For others, just buy a dedicated camera. That is a lot less cumbersome than carrying this thing around. So, for the camera system, it is a technical marvel, but in the real world, no camera system is perfect. There are the friction points that I mentioned that show up once you stop looking at the spec sheet. Low light shooting introduces noticeable shutter lag. Snap a photo in a dim restaurant or in a dark arena, and the phone can take a couple of seconds to finalize the image. You'll see a preview that slowly sharpens into the actual shot. The AI processing occasionally fumbles fine details like hair or foliage, and smoothing things that should stay textured. These are real-world friction points that show up in daily use, not just in controlled test shots. On the video and creative side, Hasselblad Master Mode gives you 9 film simulations that actually look like film rather than Instagram presets. Full RAW support at maximum resolution across every lens, and O-Log 2 for those who want to color grade their footage afterward. Every lens, front and back, shoots 4K 60 frames per second Dolby Vision, and 8K 30 frames per second is available if you want the storage headache that comes with that. I don't. Video stabilization is excellent, and the one honest note is that video sharpness trails slightly behind what the still system produces, but the gap is narrow enough that most people shooting for social or travel content won't notice or care. Against the S26 Ultra and the iPhone 17 Pro Max, this camera system on the OPPO Find X9 Ultra just operates at a different scale. The sensor sizes translate directly to what you see when you zoom in on a shot and the detail is still there, or when you shoot in fading light and the image holds. You know, for years, the one issue with these Ultra phones was simple. It was hard to buy one outside of China. Now that OPPO has gone global, that excuse is gone, and Samsung and Apple should be paying very close attention. This isn't just a great alternative phone anymore. It's a direct shot across the bow of the entire flagship industry, and the sensor sizes, the battery, the software polish, it all backs that up. Now, the one catch for anyone watching from the US, this still isn't going to be officially available here. Europe, UK, parts of Asia, yes. North America, not yet. So if you're stateside, you're either importing it, which if you want this, I would definitely recommend, or waiting to see if that changes. And I don't think it will for a long time, if ever. But for everyone else, the question is pretty straightforward. Is this the phone that finally makes you leave Samsung or the iPhone behind? Drop your answer in the comments. I'm genuinely curious how many of you are ready to make that move, or if you're based in the US, Would you buy this phone if it was available here? Thanks for watching as always, guys. I appreciate your support. I'm Andrew Edwards, and I will catch you in the next video.